Once upon a time, no, wait, scratch that. Because this was never one of those tidy bedtime stories with moral bows and trumpet fanfares. This was a story about naps, about exhaustion so deep it calcified into identity, about a kingdom where tiredness was treated like treason and rest like rebellion. And at the quiet, padded center of it all was a boy named Dorian, known in later years as the Lazy Prince, though once, long before the title curdled into insult, he had been called His Highness of High Potential, a phrase his parents spoke with reverence and weaponized with precision. His father officially King Leontes, but privately Father Checklist. A man who believed love was best expressed through measurable outcomes, and his mother, Queen Veralda, mother. Hyperia the spreadsheet, whose affection came color-coded, scheduled and conditional, and though Dorian knew their titles and their expectations, he never truly knew them, not as people, not as parents, only as moving goalposts that receded. Faster the closer he came, because excellence, as his mother often reminded him while adjusting the angle of his posture or the cadence of his speech, was not an achievement but a baseline, and dreaming was an inefficient use of time she had already allocated for him, 10 years neatly planned. In advance, milestones stacked like dominoes he was expected to knock down flawlessly. Thank you, your productivity's no majesties, and so his childhood became a checklist masquerading as a life. Applause replacing affection, gold stars coming easier than hugs, approval always one accomplishment away, and never closer than that. And somewhere in the quiet between lessons and evaluations, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, if he matched their expectations perfectly, they would love him the way he wished, so he tried. Harder than anyone could reasonably expect a child to try, collecting mentors instead of friends, performances instead of play, mastering etiquette, strategy, diplomacy, and languages he never spoke outside exams, excelling so completely that he began to disappear beneath the weight of it. Until one day, not dramatically, not with rebellion or shouting, but with the soft finality of a door closing, he stopped trying, stopped performing, stopped reaching, and no one noticed at first, not until his silence grew so wide. It swallowed him whole, and when he finally named what he felt, the only word that seemed to fit was lazy. Because tired had never been an acceptable explanation, and so he grew up into the man history would label the Lazy Prince. A title spoken with disdain by those who never felt the weight he carried in his bones, in his breath, in his will to care, a fatigue that no amount of sleep could touch because it wasn't born of effort, but of expectation. And so when the military budget awaited his sign-off months late, he blinked and remarked that time flew when you were horizontal. When advisors pleaded that the kingdom needed leadership and his mother snapped that he was royalty, not a rug and should sit up at once, he replied mildly that the floor and he were bonding and that wasting time was subjective when one was savoring it very slowly. And gradually, ironically, everyone stopped pushing because pushing him was exhausting. And his refusal to hurry infected the court with a strange, reluctant stillness until one day, during a royal hunt, he napped beneath a tree with exceptional lumbar support, communing with nature, and that was when she appeared. No fanfare, no prophecy. Just honesty calling him a nap that got dressed up, introducing herself as Gilda, peasant and hunter, asking him not who he was to the world, but what he called himself. And for once he didn't reach for a title, only saying he was mostly decorative, occasionally clever, which made her laugh. And though she left, they met again and again in the unremarkable spaces between obligation. And sometimes a meeting was enough, sometimes being enough was enough, and Dorian found that with her he didn't. Need to be more, until one morning like any other too early. Too loud, too scheduled, the court assembled. Dorian slouched, half listening, when the minister arrived, gasping that the king and queen were gone, vanished without storm or spell, just absence, and the kingdom tilted as nobles panicked and guards shouted, and someone declared that Crown Prince Dorian must act before the people noticed the throne was empty. And just like that, the lazy prince became the nap king by default, days slipping by as search parties returned empty-handed. Rumors and prayers filling the vacuum where leadership should have been, until rival lords summoned a closed council and presented an ancient orb. A visionary failsafe, they claimed, releasing calming chemicals to quell panic. Nothing more, just governance, and Dorian, barely listening, pressed his palm to it so he could go back to sleep. And the kingdom didn't panic anymore because the kingdom didn't do much of anything at all. Apprentices stopped showing up, horses stopped eating. People forgot why they were reading mid-sentence, and only Gilda remained untouched. Climbing into the highest attic where even spiders slept to uncover the truth. That the orb had unleashed the looming, a weaponized fog designed for enemies, a mirror maze of internalized cruelty, and when she confronted Dorian, telling him he was never lazy, only burned out, and that now his exhaustion was spreading, he followed her not out of ambition but affection. Guided by a sarcastic sentient sword he found beneath misplaced laundry during a cheese-seeking mission. A sword that mocked his low blood pressure and declared itself his emotional support weapon, leading him into the heart of the looming, which was not a battlefield but a memory. A chorus of every failure, every disappointed sigh, every internalized insult people hurled at themselves. And when the fog demanded why his mind did not bend like the others, why he remained unmoved, the sword answered that Dorian had been depressed longer than the curse had existed. And when illusions of his parents and shattered awards struck, Dorian finally spoke not in anger, but truth, that his fight was never with the world but with himself. That he was not lazy, only tired, punished for potential, and instead of striking the looming, he embraced it, releasing himself from the need to prove, declaring himself enough, and the fog faded, the kingdom exhaled. The missing royals were found remorseful and repentant, and Dorian, offered praise and power, declined most of it, appointing Gilda to lead while he supervised from the nap chamber, instituting a revolutionary midday motivation hour, maintaining his reputation as the lazy prince, not as a failure, but as a reminder that rest is not weakness, that worth is not earned through exhaustion, and that sometimes the bravest thing a ruler can do is lie down, close his eyes, and finally let himself be enough.